We are just mere hours away from football being back. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, and we are this close, so close now to the start of the new football season, and I am so hyped, especially considering I'm a Reading fan, so the Championship season starts this weekend, so I couldn't be any more excited than I am right now. And tonight we kick off with Huddersfield versus Burnley to start the season. So for today, as it is the first day of the season, I figured why not, let's record my predictions for the 22-23 Sky Bet Championship season. We're going to try and do 24 to first, and there'll be a few controversial opinions, so please do not get butthurt by anything I say, because, you know, I'm a Reading fan, what do I know? So let's just get straight into it. So in 24th, I've actually gone for Rotherham. Now, the reason I've gone for Rotherham is purely because they haven't really strengthened their squad that much, and they weren't in the best of form at the end of last season either. They did get automatically promoted, but they're one of these yo-yo teams that, literally, I've never seen a yo-yo team just like Rotherham. Like, even Norwich I wouldn't put onto Rotherham's scale of yo-yo yet, so yeah, I'm going to go with Rotherham 24th. Even though I am a big Paul Warne fan, I think his tactics are a bit misleading at times, but I believe that they do work for what they need to be. And I'd like to see him sort of go to a different team maybe like a Luton or something, just to see what he could do with those sorts of players. But sorry, Millers fans, I've put you at bottom of the league. I do apologise. In 23rd, I've gone for Brom. I've gone for Birmingham City. This is what... man. This is a really tricky one, because Birmingham are now the longest reigning current Championship side, and I believe Reading are second actually. It was Derby and Forest, but then obviously last season one went down, one went up, so it could just be Birmingham's time now. They've been on the cusp of relegation, not cusp of relegation, but they've certainly been in the bottom half, especially for the last few seasons, so you could start to see them wear out now. They've got aging players, you know, they've got Dini, they've got Djukovic. There are goals there, but do they have the players around them to keep them afloat? I'm not sure. How do I feel about Eustace as manager? It's just that inexperience since Bowyer left, and I don't think it's going to work for them. And obviously, God knows what's going on with their takeover right now, and it just feels like a bit of a mess in Birmingham right now. So, sorry Brum fans, I'm putting you in 23rd to get relegated. And then for the final relegation place, this is my this is my really controversial one. But let me explain. I've gone for Huddersfield. Yes, I've gone for the Terriers to finish in the final relegation space. And the reason for that is mainly because I actually did put them in the bottom three last season when I predicted my Championship placements last year. But, of course, they blew everyone out of the water. No one thought they were going to finish in the playoffs, let alone third place, and get to the playoff final. So, you know, they've disgruntled a lot of fans there. But, you know, they've lost their manager. They've lost probably all their best players, and O'Brien and Toffolo. And they've just got nothing, really. Naby Sarr's now gone. He's apparently joining us this season, which is an incredible signing for us, of course. But for Terriers fans, tell me, what do you think is going to happen with this season? To be fair, I don't even know if it'll be relegation or not. I'm just doing it purely based on the fact that there's no momentum going into the season. When you lose a playoff final, it can usually end up being a huge drop the season after. And there doesn't seem to be much of a plan either. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Another inexperienced manager coming in and trying to do a job as well. So it could be quite tricky for the Terriers this season. So sorry Huddersfield, putting you in the bottom three. In 21st, now to be honest, the way I see this bit is if you're 15th down to above the relegation, you could go anywhere in these placements. So I'm doing this purely based on which teams do I think are better than the others. And then it's sort of the same from 14th to 6th or 14th to 7th. You could be a playoff team. And then the top 6 is its own thing completely. So I've gone for Wigan. And the reason I've gone for Wigan is purely because even though they pretty much... I wouldn't say they dominated League One. They did at the start. I thought they were going to break the points record at one point last season, the last 6, but they didn't. Purely because they did drop off in that sort of middle, second, third sort of time during the season last year. And you know they've got a really good striker, and you know a player like Will Keane is exactly who you need in the Championship. He may not be Championship proven, but we know he can do a job, and I think the Latics will be just fine this season. Got a solid manager, they've got some decent players. They lost a couple, but nothing too much. My only issue with Wigan is, have they got enough of a squad to stay up if injuries take place, and I don't know if they've done that yet. I think they're better than all the teams I put in the bottom three, who've got very similar issues, but I think Wigan will just about be safe. So, Wigan, 21st. I've then gone for my team. I've gone for the Mighty Royals, Reading in 20th. It's just a mess of... it's not even a mess of a moment. It's a really tricky situation. We're under embargo. We've had a bit of a clear out. We've lost players like Rinomota, Swift, Laurent. And then last season, obviously, we lost like Elise, Omar Richards, all these players. So we've sort of had to rebuild using free transfers and loan deals. And we've done a pretty good job considering. My only issue with Reading this season is I don't know if I'm happy with Paul Ince as manager or not. I want him to do a great job. He's an England legend. He's a footballing legend. I want him to do a great job. He seems like a generally nice guy, but he hasn't got the best proven track record. And that's why most fans would predict us to finish in the bottom three this season, which I completely get. But when you've got players like Zhao, Ejaria, Yakumete, you've got experience like Junior Hoylett and now Shane Long coming into the ranks. You've then got Jeff Hendrick. We just signed Tyrese Forner from Forest. We got a lot of players. Naby Sarr as well coming in, and hopefully signing the Porto player Mamadou Loum, I believe it's pronounced. I don't know how you pronounce it. I do apologise, but I know he's coming in on loan as well. So you never know really. I know that Lumley didn't have a great season last season for Borough, but he's had an okay pre-season. Not that pre-season is much to go on. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to finish any higher than 18th in honesty, but 20th is where I'm putting us. And honestly, as a Reading fan, I'm happy just to survive this season. So Royals in 20th space. For 19th, I've gone for Bristol City, and the main reason I've gone for Bristol City is probably because they've been on a bit of a back burner last couple of seasons. Like, I remember 2 seasons ago, during the COVID season, they were like top of the league at one point, and then they just completely dropped, like just completely flatlined. And then last season, they couldn't get much momentum going either. And I just think this season is just more about rebuilding again, try and make your way to the top. Bristol City have been one of those teams where they're either fighting for promotion or they're trying to rebuild again, if that makes sense. They did it with Lee Johnson, they're trying it with Pearson, and I think it'll be a very... Is it Lee Johnson? Yeah, Lee Johnson. I was thinking of his dad for a second. Lee Johnson, and now Pearson. And I just think they're sort of in that rebuild structure again. I could be proven wrong. Bristol City are one of these teams that, like I said, could be in the upper end of the league table. But who knows? They're a bit of a momentum team, so I'm just going to put them in 19th. I think they'll be quite safe quite easily, but I don't know if they'll push up any further than that. So I've gone for Bristol City in 19th. I've then gone for the third promoted team in Sunderland, and the reason I've gone for Sunderland here is because they've got a really good striker, at least who I think would be a really good striker. I think he was top scorer in League One last season. Was Ross, and I think if he can continue that momentum going, I think he'll be a really good goal scorer for the Championship. I know that they haven't done a huge amount of business, I don't think. But they have signed. I believe they signed Jack Clark. I believe they have signed Jack Clark. I could be wrong, but I believe they have. I think it was 10 million. Could be wrong. I believe they have though. So they brought in. They've spent some money. They haven't brought in a huge amount of players, but they have spent some money, which is good to see from a team coming up into the Championship. And Sunderland have been trying to fight their way back to the Premier League ever since they had the consecutive relegation seasons. And I think they'll be alright, to be honest. I think they've got a decent manager who has Championship experience. And I think they'll be just fine. I think this season is more about making sure they stay up, keep in the Championship, solidify themselves in this league, and then next season they can push on for a top 6 space. Next up, I've gone for Blackpool, and actually most people put Blackpool a lot lower, but I've got to give them credit where credit's due. They've brought in Reece Williams from Liverpool, and they're bringing in the Man City player. They brought in the Man City player as well. Can't remember his name. I do apologise. So I think they'll be an okay outlet. I think they've got some decent players. They've got Medine, who's a goal-scoring machine. Didn't mean to rhyme, but there we go. However, I'm a bit suspect about Michael Appleton. I don't believe he's the best manager. I think he's a really good lower league manager. But I can remember when he was the Pompey manager in the Championship, and obviously Portsmouth were going through a very weird state of flux when he was the manager. But I don't know if Appleton has the variety, has the mindset for the Championship. I think he definitely fits better in the lower league. But again, I could be proven wrong. I just don't think Blackpool will advance any more than they did last season. I think this season is just getting, like I said, solidifying themselves as a Championship team, similar to Sunderland. and then they can push on again from next season. So Blackpool, I've got you in 17th. For 16th, I've gone for QPR. Now, this one's a little bit controversial because they had a really solid season last season, and we got the likes of Lyndon Dykes up front and Chris Willock as well in the midfield, who got injured at the back end of last season. And so him coming back, and if they can get Dykes scoring again, I believe that they'll probably push on into the top 6, to be honest, by the end of the season. So I've only put them here purely based on, do I think they have a good enough squad overall? I'm not sure. They've lost a lot of their experienced players. I know Barbea's gone, or is it Barbet? Again, I apologise about these pronunciations. But I do believe they'll be sort of fluctuating between that mid-table range. But again, I could be proven wrong. QPR, similar to Bristol City, they could be the top end or the bottom end. You just never know. So 15th, I've actually gone for Blackburn. Now, a lot of fans are actually putting Blackburn a lot higher than this, but similar to a lot of other squads, I don't know if they've got a good enough overall squad. They've got the likes of Bradley Dack and, of course, Brereton Diaz, who, you know, if he has another great season, could easily be the top scorer in the league. However, do I believe they've got a good enough squad, a large enough squad in case injuries take place? I'm not sure. If they lose Brereton Diaz, they haven't got really many goal scorers in that team, so I'm just concerned about things like that. I'm not saying that these players are injury prone at all. I'm just going off how the Championship works. You know, as a Reading fan, we lose Lucas João and suddenly everything goes to crap. You know, it's just the way it is. So I'm just keeping Blackburn 15th. I think they've got a solid manager. I think they've got a solid basis, but I think they do need to strengthen the overall squad. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but they have the youngest overall squad in the league. So inexperience could take place here, but you never know. They could do a Brentford and end up being amazing. Who knows? So Blackburn, 15th. In 14th, I've gone for Preston. Preston lost a lot of players, but they have brought in some players as well. Not much to say about Preston, to be honest. I think they're one of these teams who, again, they'll sort of fluctuate around mid-table. They don't really ever make the playoffs. They've been relegated a couple times. I don't think they've got a bad enough squad to get relegated, but I don't think they've got a good enough squad to go up either. So I've really got them in that mid-table echelon, but I do think they're one of the stronger mid-table sides who will push up into the top 10. I've then gone for Hull, and actually and honestly, I may have put Hull a little bit high here, but I do think they've got a really good foundation, made a really good second half of last season. Obviously, they have lost probably their best player in Lewis Potter for a very good fee, and they brought in some interesting, unique players as well from the Turkish league, I believe, and they got a Portuguese manager, which sometimes works out well in the Championship, but sometimes doesn't. So it'll be interesting to see if the manager can get all those players to click, which is why I put them mid-table, because honestly, Hull could end up being a top 3 side or a bottom 3 side. Who knows? We'll find out, but I'm going to go with 13th. And then in 12th place, I've gone for Luton. So this is, apart from Huddersfield, this is my biggest drop-off from last season. I believe, obviously, you know, they've got Nathan Jones, who's been there for so many years now, not consecutively, but he's been there for so many years. He gets the club. They've got a really good striker in Adebayo, who scored 16 goals last season. But again, I feel like Luton are one of these momentum sides. I think they've got a decent squad, so I don't think they're going to have to worry too much about injuries. I like the way they play football. It's physical, and especially the way they've changed some of the refereeing in the EFL this season, where softer challenges won't be called for fouls anymore, I don't believe. So Luton might progress quite well from that. The only reason I'm putting mid-table is because I think they're one of these teams who last season sort of blew everyone away with getting into the top 6. And then they didn't lose playoff final, but they did lose out in the playoffs. So I think they will just have to drop off a little bit this season. But then I think from next season they can get going again. But for me, Luton will be dead on mid-table. And then in 11th, I've gone for Coventry. And again, Coventry are one of these teams who could definitely creep up into the top 6 if they really, really get going. With players like, I can't pronounce his name, Gyökeres, you know, who's a cracking striker in this league. And this season, if he gets going, similar to Brereton Diaz, he could be the top scorer in the league this season. So I'm only putting him here purely because I don't know if they've got a good enough squad compared to the teams above them, but I'm going to put them in 11th purely because I think they could easily push up the top 6. So Coventry fans, top 11. I've then gone for West Brom. Now I've gone for West Brom quite low compared to how a lot of fans are predicting them to be. I understand it. You know, they brought in John Swift, who's one of the best playmakers in the league, who got over 20 goal contributions in a midfield role last season for a very poor Reading side. And then also, but they have lost some players as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they get on. Also, as a Reading fan, I have a lot of experience when Ron Gourlay is involved with the club, and he pretty much caused our club to go into just like this. We just completely went like this under him. But it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the West Brom outfit, purely because they are a better club in terms of financial and the players that they have. I do understand that most people will put West Brom into the top 6, but I'm also very, very hesitant on Steve Bruce as a manager now. I know he did okay at Villa, but then that completely dropped off. We then saw how he did Newcastle, and now, yeah, it's not looking great at the moment for Steve Bruce. If he can get things going, then maybe they could push up the top 6. I don't think they'll be anywhere near the bottom, but last season they really underachieved, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on. So I'm going for a top 10 spot for the Baggies this season. And then in 9th, I've gone for Swansea. Again, not much to say about Swansea. I think it all depends on if they can keep Joel Pirro or not as well. I just think, you know, they were rebuilding last season, which was the right thing for them to do. They're financially, they're in an okay space. They got some really solid squad members. I don't know if they're good enough for top 6. I think it's possible. But again, I think that squad is just slightly, ever so slightly so thin that they're not quite going to hit the height of top 6. But I believe they'll be in and around trying to chase a playoff spot. So I've gone for 9th for Swansea. And then in 8th place, I've actually gone for Millwall. And Millwall are one of these teams who literally, I feel like they always finish 8th. I don't know why. They always seem to finish just outside the playoffs. They tend to do okay at the start, have a bit of a shaky middle, and then at the end they'll try and push for playoffs again. But I think they've got a really solid manager, and they've got a really solid outlet as well. I think this could be a really good season for Millwall, and I think I think possibly they could easily hit top 6 with the players that they have. So I'm going to go with 8th purely because of their home form as well. Their away form can be a bit shaky, but I'm going to go for 8th because again I don't think their squad is as good as the other 7 teams who I've got in this prediction. So I'm going to go for 8th. And then in 7th, I've gone for Stoke City. And the reason I put the Potters just outside the playoff spots is because, again, I don't know if they're as good as the top 5. I think 6th and 7th in my predictions could be either way, personally. But Stoke are one of these teams who've done a lot of business in this transfer window. You know, they brought in Lewis Baker last season. They've now got Josh Laurent in the team. And with those strikers that they have as well in Campbell and, I do apologise, I forgot the other player's name. And then you've got Tavernier as well, who had a really good season last year. I think, you know, not Tavernier, sorry, that's Middlesbrough. I do apologise. Who am I thinking of? I do apologise. But yeah, so with Stoke, I think they've got, you know, solid outlet, solid manager, a good foundation. I think they're really going to push on this season. And if they don't quite hit the top 6 this season, I think next season they will definitely be in and around the playoffs, much more solidified as a top 6 team. But I'm just going to put them 7th for now because they've sort of had to restructure, rebuild the last couple of seasons. But I think with that midfield and that attacking force, I think they'll do just fine. So I've gone for 7th for Stoke. And in 6th place, I've gone for Cardiff City. And the reason I put Cardiff here is because they've done a lot of business in this transfer window. They've had an influx of cash come in. And they've got a solid manager in Steve Morrison, I believe. I know he's not the most experienced, and that is one of my biggest cons about the Championship, when you have a manager who hasn't got the most experience. But I think Steve Morrison knows the English game enough by now. And last season they did okay. I know they only finished 18th, but considering the squad issues they're having, they did the right thing this season by sort of filtering out some of the older players and bringing in some new players as well. You know, like I said, they've got Andy Rinomhota now in the team, who's a really solid driving midfield as long as you keep him fit. That's the biggest thing about players like Rinomhota. You've got to keep him fit in order to do well. And I just think they're going to be a really solid outlet this season. Again, it all depends. Cardiff could end up actually being a bottom 3 team. It all depends on how well this business, can Morrison get them gelling together? Who knows? But that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going with Cardiff City in 6th place. I've then gone for, this is probably my most controversial one. For 5th place, I've gone for Norwich City. Yeah. Okay, so the reason I'm putting Norwich in 5th is because I believe that this is the toughest time for them to try and be yo-yo. I believe. With the squads that are around them, I think Norwich have got the hardest situation. They've not lost too many players, and they haven't really signed too many either. They haven't had the best pre-season, but again, not the pre-season is much to go on. But the main reason I'm putting them 5th is because can they do it again? You know, they've got a solid manager, they've got a really good squad, they've got arguably the best striker in the league in Teemu Pukki, but can he keep it going? And there are rumours that Pukki might be leaving in this transfer window. And that is the issue of making a prediction video before the transfer window ends. Anything could happen between now and the end of the window. So, honestly, Norwich, if they lose a striker, they could end up plummeting down to mid-table. But most fans would probably put them into the top 3, top 2. But for me, I just think the squads who I'm putting above Norwich are so much better, so much stronger. Even though Norwich are pretty much a Premier League team at this point. God, remember, every time they go to the Prem, they do finish bottom. So it's not as if they're a solidified Premier League squad. It's just they just yo-yo. I think the issue is when you have all those parachute payments, it works out well, and they're not spending much of it yet this season. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. So I'm going to go with Norwich City in 5th, yes. For 4th place, I've actually gone for Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United have got, you know, again, a really solid outlet, a good manager, really good players, and I think after last season, the only reason they didn't go up was purely because they played the team that ended up winning the playoffs in Nottingham Forest, who were great last season. So I've gone for Sheffield United. I think they're just going to be a really strong team. I think they'll really solidify themselves as a playoff team again this season. Again, not had to spend too much money, but they made some good business, and there's really not too much to say about Sheffield United. I just think they're going to be a really good team this season. So yeah, top 6 for me, definitely. And then in 3rd, I've gone for Middlesbrough. For one reason and one reason only, Chris Wilder. Chris Wilder is a grown, natural winner. That's just what Chris Wilder is. He's done it with Northampton. He's done it with Sheffield United. And he's going to do it with Middlesbrough. They've got great players like Tavernier. There we go. There's the player. We've got players like Tavernier who are going to just destroy the league this season. I think Middlesbrough are going to have a really strong home form as well. It's never easy to go up to the Riverside and win. We're going to have Middlesbrough versus Sunderland as well this season, so that could be interesting. That could be a bit of fun. Little derby there in the northeast. And yeah, I just think it's Chris Wilder, man. I don't think they're going to finish top 2, but I think they'll definitely push up into the championship places. But yeah, I think they'll definitely be fighting for automatics this season. But yeah, Chris Wilder. And in 2nd, I've gone for Burnley. And the main reason I've gone for Burnley is purely because I rate Vincent Kompany personally, and I think he's going to be a really good manager. Yes, he's not experienced in coaching in the English game, but I just think he's going to be a really, really solid manager. He's got the Premier League experience, and they've signed who I believe will be the top scorer of the season, or if not, then top 2 top scorer in Scott Twine from MK Dons. I think he's just a really good striker, and I think he's ready for the Premier League, let alone the Championship. So I think they'll do great there. You know, they signed Scott Twine for what, 4 or 5 million, and just sold. They bought him for 4 or 5 million and sold McNeil to Everton for 20 million. That's incredible business. How does that even happen? I know they have lost players though. They lost Tarkowski as well as McNeil. So I think defensively they could be a bit shaky, but I just think Burnley have got the squad. I think they've got the manager. I think, you know, they're one of these Prem teams who haven't been in the Championship for a while, so teams will be a bit shaky, be a bit worried, especially tonight. Huddersfield, with their situation, they got to face them at home. It's Burnley's first game of the Championship, and with Kompany as manager, and this Huddersfield team have got to deal with that. So if Burnley get that momentum going, they're not going to stop. However, a few injuries, and Burnley could end up halting completely. So we'll see. But I just think they're good enough for top 2, so I'm going to go with Burnley at 2nd. And to win the Championship this season, I have gone for Watford. Purely because I think they're going to absolutely dominate this league this season. I don't think they'll beat the points. They could beat points record. Who knows? I don't think they'll beat the points record, but I think they'll probably win the league by about 8 points at this rate. When you have players like Sarr at front, it's incredible. Like, brought in a new keeper as well, and what else is there to say about Watford? They've got a really solid manager. Hopefully they'll keep him on for the entire season. Who knows with Watford? But they've kept all their players. And the biggest thing about the Championship is if you've got pace in your team, pace and physical strength, you win every game. That is the way the Championship works. And what do Watford have more than anything? Pace. They've got João Pedro, for God's sake. Like, he could be top scorer this season. This is what I mean. I think this Watford side is one of the strongest squads we've ever seen in the Championship. I think they're stronger than some of the Fulham squads we've seen in recent years. I really do. The only team I would probably compare them to is the Wolves team that won the league a few years ago, which was an incredible squad. So, yeah, I just think Watford are going to walk the league this season. I really do. I don't know many people who are putting them to win the title. Most people say Norwich, Burnley, Middlesbrough and West Brom mainly. But for me, Watford have got the strongest side. And it's never easy to go to Vicarage Road and win. So I just think their home form alone will win them the title anyway. So, yeah, Watford in first place. So there you go, guys. Those are my predictions for the 22-23 Sky Bet Championship season. Let me know your predictions down below. Please do not shout in the comments. I do apologise if I have offended you and your team. It's purely my predictions and I could be completely wrong. And if I am wrong, I apologise. And all credit to your team. All credit to Rotherham when they win the league this season. Anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, please smash the like button below. Subscribe around here if you're new. And I'll see you next time. Take it easy.